The antique mirror arrived on a Tuesday, and Zara Sinclair thought nothing of it beyond the fact that it matched her apartment's aesthetic, ornate, slightly gothic, the kind of thing that felt romantic in a melancholy way. She hung it in her bedroom, opposite her bed, and went about her life as a graduate student studying medieval history at the university. Her apartment was small but cozy, filled with books and candles, and the kind of deep burgundy curtains that blocked out the noise of the modern city outside. Boston sprawled beyond her windows, all glass and steel and hurried footsteps, but inside her space, she'd created something that felt like it belonged to another era. The first night, she noticed nothing unusual. She fell asleep reading about blood feuds in 14th century Europe, her bedside lamp casting warm shadows across the walls. The second night, she woke at 3 a.m. with the strange sensation of being watched. She sat up in bed, her heart racing for reasons she couldn't explain, and stared at the mirror. It reflected only her room, her rumpled sheets, her own startled face pale in the darkness. She told herself she was being ridiculous and went back to sleep. The third night, she dreamed of white hair and dark eyes, of a voice speaking her name in a language that sounded like velvet dragged across stone. When she woke, she found herself standing in front of the mirror in her nightgown, her hand outstretched as if to touch the glass. She jerked back, breathing hard, and for just a moment, less than a heartbeat, she could have sworn she saw a figure standing in the reflection where her bedroom wall should have been. Tall, impossibly beautiful, watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle with something between fear and fascination. On the fourth night, she didn't go to sleep at all. She sat on her bed, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the mirror with determination burning through her exhaustion. If something was happening, if she wasn't losing her mind, she needed to know. The streetlights outside painted orange stripes across her floor. Her phone showed 2:47 a.m. Her eyes felt gritty and tired, but she refused to look away from the glass. At exactly 3 o'clock, the mirror changed. The reflection didn't disappear precisely, but it deepened. The surface rippled like water disturbed by a stone, and suddenly she was looking not at her bedroom but at a vast chamber lit by hundreds of candles. The walls were dark stone, hung with tapestries that looked older than countries. And standing in the center of it all, looking directly at her with eyes the color of blood spilled on snow, was the most beautiful and terrifying man she had ever seen. His hair fell past his shoulders in waves of pure white, contrasting starkly with pale skin that seemed to glow in the candlelight. He wore black clothing that looked both medieval and impossibly elegant, velvet and silk that moved like shadows when he shifted. His face could have been carved by a master sculptor obsessed with creating perfection tinged with danger. Sharp cheekbones, a mouth that was sensual and cruel in equal measure, and those eyes that pinned her in place even through the barrier of the mirror. "Finally," he said, and his voice was exactly as it had been in her dream, rich, accented with something old-world and unplaceable, carrying the weight of centuries. "I was beginning to think you would never stay awake to meet me properly." Zara's mouth had gone completely dry. She should run. She should call someone. She should do anything except sit there staring, but her body refused to cooperate with any logical thought. "You're not real," she whispered. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "I assure you, I am devastatingly real. My name is Daemon Volkarius, and I am the king of the Northern Vampire Court. And you, Zara Sinclair, have managed to purchase a mirror that once belonged to me. Vampires aren't real," she said. But even as the words left her mouth, she knew she didn't believe them. She'd spent 3 years studying medieval accounts of blood drinkers and nightwalkers, had read hundreds of historical records from people who claimed to have seen the undead. She'd always dismissed them as superstition, as metaphor for disease or political enemies. But looking at this man, this creature, she felt the foundations of her rational worldview crumbling. "We are very real," Daemon said softly, "and we have walked your world since long before your ancestors learned to write our stories down. This mirror was crafted by a witch in my service 300 years ago. It served as a window between my court and the human world, allowing me to observe without being observed." His eyes traveled over her in a way that made her breath catch. "I have not used it in over a century. Imagine my surprise when it suddenly activated again, showing me a young woman with fire in her eyes and passion in her soul, sleeping in a room full of books about my kind. You've been watching me," Zara said, and she should have been horrified, should have been furious. But what she felt instead was that strange pull of fascination growing stronger. "For 3 nights, yes, I could not help myself." "You are," he paused, seeming to choose his words carefully, "expected. The mirror has shown me many humans over the centuries, but none have captured my attention as you have. The way you read those histories as if you could bring the dead to life through understanding alone. The way you speak to yourself when you think no one is listening, arguing with authors who have been dust for 500 years. Your passion for knowledge, your hunger to understand things beyond your experience. I found myself unable to look away. This is insane, Zara breathed. But she was pulling the blanket tighter around herself not because she wanted to hide, but because she was suddenly acutely aware that she was wearing only a thin nightgown under it. You can't just watch people. That's stalking. I suppose by modern human standards you are correct. He didn't sound remotely apologetic. But I am not human and I do not follow human rules. I follow my own nature, and my nature compelled me to watch you, to learn you, to wonder what your voice would sound like, whether it would be as lovely as your face suggested. He took a step closer to the mirror, and it felt as if the space between them had contracted, and now I know, it is lovelier. Zara's heart was hammering so hard she was sure he could hear it. Why are you telling me this? What do you want? Something shifted in his expression, something almost vulnerable beneath the regal confidence. I want to speak with you. I want to know you as more than a figure glimpsed through glass. I am a king, Zara. I have power that could level cities, wealth that could buy nations, subjects who would die at my command, but I am also desperately, achingly alone. Do you know what it is to live for over 1,000 years? To watch empires rise and fall, to see everyone you might care about age and wither while you remain unchanged? I have not felt genuine curiosity about another being in longer than I can remember. Until you. She should have been afraid. Every instinct of self-preservation should have been screaming at her to smash the mirror, to run, to never look back. But instead she found herself leaning forward. 1,000 years, she repeated. You've been alive for 1,000 years, 1,237 to be precise. I was born in the year 789 in what you would now call Norway. I was a warrior then, a Jarl's son. I died in battle at 28 and rose 3 nights later as what I am now. The Dark Ages, Zara said, her historian's mind latching onto the detail despite everything. You lived through the Viking expansion, the Christianization of Scandinavia, the medieval period, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, everything. I did not merely live through them. I shaped them in small ways. My kind has always moved through human history like threads through tapestry, invisible individually, but creating patterns in the larger design. His eyes gleamed. You understand the significance of that. I can see it in your face. You are not thinking about the monster in front of you. You are thinking about the witness to history. He was right, and Zara felt slightly unbalanced by how well he could read her. I've spent years studying your era. The primary sources are so fragmentary, so much has been lost. You could tell me things no one else knows. I could tell you everything, Daemon said quietly. I could describe the court of Charlemagne from personal experience. I could recite the poetry that was lost when the Library of Alexandria burned. I heard some of it spoken before the flames. I could show you the truth behind every legend you have ever studied. But that is not why I want to speak with you then. Why? Because when I look at you, I feel something I have not felt in centuries. Interest, desire, a connection that transcends the simple hunger for blood. He pressed his palm against the mirror from his side, and she could see the elegant length of his fingers, the deadly grace in every line of his body. I want to know what makes you laugh. I want to argue with you about those historians you love so much. I want to hear your theories about the world and offer you the truth that only I can provide. And I want very much to touch you. Zara's breath caught. We're in different worlds. You just said the mirror is a window, not a door, not anymore. His voice was soft, dangerous, promising. The witch who made this also crafted an incantation. Words that if spoken by both parties willingly can open the mirror as a portal between your world and mine. I could come to you, Zara. I could step into your room, into your life. Or you could come to me, could see the court that I rule, the kingdom beneath the earth that humans have forgotten exists. That's impossible, she said, but her hand was rising of its own accord, reaching toward the glass. Magic is never impossible. It simply requires belief and will in equal measure. Daemon's eyes tracked her movement with predatory focus. But I will not speak the words unless you wish it. Despite what you might think, I do not take without permission. If you want me to go, to never appear in your mirror again, I will honor that. The choice is yours. It will always be yours. She should say yes. She should tell him to leave and never come back. This was dangerous beyond measure, insane beyond reason. He was a vampire, a creature that drank blood to survive, a being who had admitted to watching her without consent. Everything rational in her screamed that this was a terrible idea. But Zara had spent her entire life being rational. She'd chosen the safe path, the academic path, buried herself in books and history because the real world felt too vast and frightening. She'd never taken risks, never done anything spontaneous or wild. She'd studied passion and romance and great loves from the safety of historical distance, never allowing herself to experience them. And here, in the impossible darkness of 3 a.m, a vampire king who had lived for over a millennium was looking at her like she was the most fascinating thing in any world. What are the words? She heard herself ask. Daemon's expression blazed with triumph and something deeper, something that looked almost like relief. In your world, you must say. By mirror made and magic spoken, let the barrier now be broken. In mine I will speak the same in the old tongue. But Zara, his voice dropped to something that was almost pleading, once this is done, there is no returning to ignorance. You will know that my kind exists. You will be connected to our world. Others will eventually sense what has happened. You will never be entirely safe again. I don't think I want safety, Zara said, and realized she meant it. I think I want truth. I want to know, I want to understand, and I want— She trailed off, unable to articulate the pull she felt toward him, the magnetic draw that made no logical sense. You want to see if this feeling is real, Daemon finished. You want to know if a vampire and a human can truly connect, or if this is merely my predator's nature recognizing prey. Yes. Then let me prove it is not. Let me show you what you have become to me in just 3 nights of watching. Let me court you properly, as you deserve. His hand remained pressed to the glass. Speak the words, Zara. Take the leap. I swear on my crown and my ancient name that I will never harm you, never take from you what is not freely given, and protect you from any who would. She stood up, letting the blanket fall away, and walked to the mirror. Up close, she could see him in even more detail, the way his white hair caught the candlelight, the inhuman perfection of his features, the intensity in those blood-red eyes that made her feel seen in a way she never had before. She raised her hand to match his, only the thin barrier of magic-infused glass between their palms. By mirror made and magic spoken, she said clearly, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Let the barrier be broken. Daemon's eyes blazed. And he spoke in a language that sounded like ice cracking and thunder rolling and wind howling through ancient forests. The mirror began to glow, a soft silver light that grew brighter and brighter until Zara had to close her eyes against the radiance. When she opened them again, Daemon Volkarius, vampire king of the northern court, was standing in her bedroom. He was taller than she'd expected, well over 6 feet, with the build of a warrior despite his elegant clothing. The candlelight from his world had been replaced by the ambient orange glow of streetlights through her windows, and in it he looked even more otherworldly. His skin was so pale it was almost luminous, his white hair a stark contrast that should have looked strange but instead looked regal. And his eyes, those impossible red eyes, were fixed on her with an intensity that stole her breath. You are even more beautiful up close, he said softly. And then he was moving, crossing the small space between them with inhuman speed. Zara's back hit the wall before she registered that she'd stepped backward, and then he was there, one hand braced beside her head, close enough that she could feel the cold radiating from his body. He wasn't warm like a human, his presence was like standing near an open winter window, crisp, sharp, invigorating. Your heart is racing, Daemon observed. Are you afraid? Yes, Zara admitted, but not enough to want you to go. His free hand came up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a strand of dark hair back from her face. His fingers were cool against her skin, gentle despite the strength she could sense in them. You are remarkable. Do you know that? Facing a predator with honesty instead of false bravado or submission. You acknowledge your fear but do not let it control you. You said you wouldn't hurt me, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. And I will not. That vow is absolute. His thumb traced the line of her cheekbone with devastating tenderness. But I want very much to touch you, to learn the shape of you, to discover if you taste as sweet as you smell. May I, Zara? May I kiss you? She should have hesitated. She should have asked 1,000 questions first, should have established boundaries and rules and safeguards. Instead, she tilted her face up and breathed, yes. Daemon's kiss was nothing like she'd expected. She'd thought it might be aggressive, dominating the claiming of a predator. Instead, it was achingly gentle, a soft press of cool lips against hers, a question more than a demand. He kissed her like she was something precious, something that might break if handled roughly, and the contrast between his obvious power and his careful restraint made something in her chest crack open. She made a small sound and leaned into him, her hands coming up to grip the velvet of his coat, and felt him respond. His arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her against the hard length of his body, and the kiss deepened. His mouth moved against hers with the skill of someone who had centuries to perfect the art, and Zara felt like she was drowning in sensation, the coolness of his skin, the strength in his arms, the way he held her like she was the only thing in any world that mattered. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard, or rather she was, and he was mimicking the motion in a way that suggested he didn't actually need to breathe but was doing it for her benefit. Extraordinary, Daemon murmured against her lips. You are extraordinary, Zara Sinclair. This is crazy, she said, but she was smiling, her fingers still twisted in his coat. This is absolutely insane. I just kissed a vampire king. And how did you find the experience? Honestly, better than any kiss from a human man I've ever had. She laughed, slightly breathless. Which probably says something about my dating history. Daemon's expression darkened. You have had other lovers. I'm 24. Of course I've dated. She studied his face, seeing something possessive and ancient stirring in his eyes. Does that bother you? It should not. You had a full life before I entered it, and I have no claim on your past. His hand tightened fractionally at her waist. But the thought of others touching you, tasting you, makes me want to destroy things. I have not felt jealousy like this in longer than I can remember. What are you doing to me? The raw honesty in his voice made her soften. The same thing you're doing to me. Making me feel things I don't understand, don't have context for. I've never been impulsive. I've never done anything like this. But standing here with you feels more right than anything else in my life has felt. Come with me, Daemon said suddenly. Come back through the mirror. Let me show you my world, my court. Let me give you a night you will never forget. Zara hesitated. It's 4 in the morning. I have class at 10. Time moves differently between our realms. An hour here is roughly 3 in my world. You could spend what feels like the entire night with me and return with time to spare before your class. His eyes gleamed with challenge and invitation. Unless you are afraid. I'm terrified, she said honestly. But I'm also more curious than I've ever been about anything. Show me. Show me everything. The smile he gave her was brilliant and fierce, and then he was lifting her into his arms as if she weighed nothing at all. Zara let out a startled laugh and wrapped her arms around his neck as he carried her to the mirror. Up close she could see that the glass still glowed faintly, and instead of reflecting her room, it showed his chamber, the stone walls, the candles, the tapestries. Hold tight to me, Daemon instructed, and then he stepped through. The sensation was like being pulled through cold water, a moment of pressure and disorientation, and then they were through. Zara found herself in the chamber she'd seen through the mirror, and the reality of it was overwhelming. The space was enormous, with a vaulted ceiling that disappeared into shadows above. The tapestries she'd glimpsed were massive works of art depicting battles and hunts, and scenes that looked torn from medieval legends. The candles burned with steady flames that gave off no smoke, and the air smelled like old stone and something sweet she couldn't identify. Daemon set her down gently, keeping one arm around her waist as if he knew her knees were unsteady. Welcome, he said quietly, to the court of the northern vampires. You are the first human to stand here in over 200 years. Zara turned slowly, trying to take it all in. This is underground? Beneath Boston, yes. We have built our kingdoms in the spaces humans have forgotten or never knew existed. Caverns and catacombs, expanded and refined over centuries. This court extends for miles in every direction, housing thousands of my kind. Thousands, she repeated faintly. There are thousands of vampires under the city, under every major city in the world. We have always lived alongside humanity, hidden in plain sight. He guided her toward a massive chair, a throne carved from black stone and draped with furs. He sat and pulled her down onto his lap as if it were the most natural thing in the world, arranging her comfortably against his chest. We have laws, hierarchies, politics as complex as any human government. We are not mindless monsters, Zara. We are beings with cultures and histories and ambitions. She should have protested being manhandled onto his lap, but it felt too good to be held, too right to be surrounded by his strength. Tell me about your court. How does it work? And he did. For what felt like hours, Daemon spoke, and Zara listened with the rapt attention of the scholar she was. He described the structure of vampire society, the kings and queens, who ruled different regions, the councils that settled disputes, the ancient laws that governed their kind. He told her about the blood tithes, the willing human donors who provided sustenance in exchange for protection and compensation. He explained the weaknesses: sunlight was deadly, fire was dangerous, and certain blessed objects could harm them, though not as easily as legends suggested. We are not immortal in the truest sense, he said, his fingers playing absently with her hair. We can be killed. We simply do not age and can heal from most injuries that would fell a human. But decapitation, complete destruction by fire, being drained entirely of blood, these things will end us. Have you ever come close to dying? Zara asked. His expression grew distant. Twice. Once in 1347, during the Black Death. We discovered that while we could not catch the plague, we could be weakened by feeding on the infected. I nearly starved myself trying to avoid taking blood from the dying. The second time was during the French Revolution. Humans were killing anything they perceived as nobility or privilege, and vampires were caught in that purge. I lost many of my court before we managed to flee to safer territory. That must have been horrible. It taught me that safety is an illusion, even for beings like us. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing is guaranteed. He tilted her face up to look at him. Which is why when something remarkable appears in your existence, you must seize it with both hands and refuse to let go. Is that what I am? Something remarkable? You are the most remarkable thing I have encountered in over a century, Daemon said with complete sincerity. You make me feel young again, Zara. You make me curious about the future instead of merely enduring it. Do you have any idea what a gift that is? She kissed him instead of answering, and this time there was no hesitation from either of them. The kiss was deep and hungry, and she felt his control slip, just slightly felt the press of sharp fangs against her lower lip, the tightening of his arms around her, the low sound he made that was pure predatory satisfaction. When they broke apart, his eyes had gone completely red, no white showing at all, and his fangs were visible past his parted lips. "You are playing with fire," he warned, his voice rough. "Maybe I like the burn," Zara said breathlessly. "If you continue kissing me like that, I will want more than kisses. I will want to taste you in every sense of the word. I will want to mark you as mine, to ensure that every vampire in every court knows that you are under my protection and claim." The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in her belly. "And if I want that too?" Daemon went very still. "You do not know what you are asking, then explain it to me." He was quiet for a long moment, visibly wrestling with control. "If I bite you, if I take your blood, it will create a bond between us. You will be able to sense me, feel my emotions as I will feel yours. Other vampires will recognize my claim and know that to harm you is to invite my wrath. And you will want me, crave me, in a way that goes beyond normal human desire. The bond is intense, all-consuming. It would change everything between us. Would it be against my will? No. The bond amplifies what already exists. If you feel nothing for me, it will create nothing. But if there is already attraction, already connection." He trailed off meaningfully. "Would you want it?" Zara asked. "Honestly, I want it so badly that it frightens me," Daemon admitted. "I want to mark you, claim you, bind you to me in every way possible. I want the world to know that you are mine and I am yours. But I have known you for mere hours, Zara. This intensity is not normal, not rational. I do not want you to agree to something so permanent without understanding the full weight of it." She appreciated his honesty, his attempt at restraint despite clearly wanting otherwise. It made her trust him more, not less. "I'm not ready for that. Not yet, but I'm not saying no forever, just not tonight." The relief in his expression was palpable. "Thank you for your honesty. I can wait. I have waited over a millennium for something real. I can wait a while longer for you to be certain." "Tell me more about your world," Zara said, settling more comfortably against him. "I want to know everything." And so he continued, describing the intricacies of vampire politics and culture. He told her about the other courts, the Southern Court, ruled by a queen named Svetlana, who was nearly as old as he was, the Eastern Court led by twins who had been turned in ancient China, the Western Court governed by a former Aztec priest who had survived the conquest by becoming vampire. He described the tensions between the courts, the alliances and betrayals that spanned centuries, the delicate balance they all maintained to keep their existence secret from the human world. "We have had to adapt as humanity has advanced," Daemon explained. "Once we could disappear into the night and humans would attribute our actions to demons or devils. Now with technology and forensics and global communication, we must be far more careful. We have vampires who specialize in manipulating digital records, in creating false identities, in ensuring that our dead end up cremated before questions can be asked. It is exhausting in a way that medieval existence never was. But you've survived," Zara said. "Your kind has adapted to every change in human civilization. We have. Though there have been losses along the way, some of our kind could not accept the modern world and chose to meet the sun rather than continue. Others became reckless and were hunted down by those of us who understood that their exposure threatened us all. Are there hunters, human ones who know about you? A few families who have passed the knowledge down through generations. They are rare now, but they exist. We have an uneasy truce with most of them. They do not hunt us if we do not hunt humans indiscriminately. It is not a perfect system, but it has maintained peace for the past century." Zara's mind was racing with questions, with the implications of everything he was telling her. This was a whole hidden world, a secret history running parallel to everything she'd studied. "I want to research this," she said suddenly. "I want to document it, understand it properly. The academic in me is screaming." Daemon laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "You are thinking about scholarship while sitting in a vampire king's lap in a hidden court. You are magnificent. I'm serious. Think about what this means. Everything I've studied, all those historical accounts I dismissed as superstitions, some of them might be real observations. I could cross-reference them with what you know, create a proper timeline of vampire-human interaction throughout history." "And where would you publish this research?" he asked, amused. "I doubt any academic journal would accept a paper on actual vampire history. I wouldn't publish it. But I could know, I could understand." She turned to face him more fully. "Would you help me? Would you share your memories? Let me document them." His expression softened. "I would give you anything you asked for, Zara. If you want to turn your considerable intellect toward understanding my world, I will provide you with every resource I possess. Though I must warn you, spending that much time with me may be dangerous to your objectivity." "How so?" "Because the more time you spend in my presence, the more likely you are to fall in love with me," he said with arrogant confidence that should have been off-putting but somehow wasn't. I am very charming when I wish to be. Zara rolled her eyes. And humble. Humility is for those who have something to be humble about. I am a king, a warrior, and over 1,000 years old. I have earned the right to confidence. But his smile took the edge off the words. You're also a giant pain in the ass, I'm guessing, frequently. But you will find that you enjoy it. She laughed despite herself, and his eyes gleamed with satisfaction. They talked for hours more until Zara's exhaustion began to catch up with her. She yawned despite trying to fight it, and Daemon immediately shifted her in his arms. You need sleep, he said, and you have your class in the morning. I should return you to your world. I don't want to go, Zara admitted. This has been the most incredible night of my life. It is only the first of many, Daemon promised. Now that the mirror has been opened, I can come to you or you to me whenever we wish. This is not goodbye, merely good night. He carried her back to the mirror, and the transition back to her bedroom was just as disorienting as the first crossing. Suddenly they were surrounded by familiar walls and modern furniture, the sounds of the city waking up outside filtering through the windows. Dawn was approaching, painting the sky in shades of gray. Sunlight, Zara said with sudden concern. You need to go before the mirror will protect me. As long as I remain on my side before the sun fully rises, I will be safe. He set her down gently on her bed, tucking the blankets around her with surprising tenderness. Sleep, Zara. Dream of tonight, and tomorrow we will continue our exploration of each other. Tomorrow, she agreed sleepily. Come back tomorrow night. Nothing could keep me away. He bent and kissed her forehead, and then he was stepping back through the mirror. She watched as the glass shimmered and solidified, once again showing only her bedroom reflected back at her. Zara fell asleep with a smile on her face, her mind full of white hair and red eyes and the promise of more to come. She woke 4 hours later to her alarm blaring, disoriented and exhausted. For a moment she wondered if the entire night had been a dream, some elaborate fantasy brought on by studying too much medieval history and sleeping too little. But then she saw the mirror, still hanging on her wall, and remembered the feeling of cool lips against hers, strong arms holding her, a voice centuries old speaking her name. She got through her classes on autopilot, barely able to concentrate on the lecture about the Crusades. Her professor noticed her distraction and asked if she was feeling well, and Zara made some excuse about not sleeping enough. It was true, technically, even if the reason for her sleeplessness was beyond any explanation she could offer. When she finally returned to her apartment that evening, the mirror was glowing faintly. She dropped her bag and rushed to it, pressing her palm against the cool glass. Immediately, Daemon appeared on the other side, looking as regal and perfect as he had the night before. You came back, he said, and there was relief in his voice that made her heart clench. Of course I came back. Did you think I wouldn't? I thought perhaps the daylight would bring rationality, and you would decide that a vampire was too dangerous, too impossible to incorporate into your life. I spent all day trying to convince myself of that, Zara admitted. But I can't stop thinking about you, about everything you told me. I want more, Daemon. I want to know everything. His smile was brilliant. Then come through, or shall I come to you? Come here, she said. I want to show you my world for once. He stepped through the mirror with the easy grace of someone who had done it many times now, and immediately looked around her apartment with interest. So this is where you live when you are not visiting vampire courts. It suits you. It's small, Zara said self-consciously. Nothing like your chambers. It is filled with things you love. Books and soft blankets and candles. It speaks to who you are. He picked up one of her textbooks, flipping through it with clear interest. You are studying the Fourth Crusade. I was in Constantinople when it fell. I watched the Venetians sack one of the greatest cities in the world. You were there? Zara's exhaustion evaporated, replaced by intense focus. Tell me everything. The sources are so biased and there's so much we don't know about, Daemon laughed. You are delightful. Most people, upon meeting a vampire, want to know about the blood drinking and the immortality. You want to discuss historical events. I can do both. Multitasking is a skill I've developed. Very well. Let me tell you about Constantinople. He sat on her bed, pulling her down beside him, and began to speak. The hours slipped by as Daemon recounted his memories of historical events with the clarity of someone who had actually lived them. Zara took notes frantically, asking questions, cross-referencing what he said with what she'd read. He was patient with her academic interrogation, seeming to enjoy her enthusiasm. You realize, he said at one point, that I am giving you information that could rewrite history books, and you cannot publish any of it. I know, but I'll know the truth, that's enough. Is it? He studied her carefully. You have worked hard to build an academic career. Does it not frustrate you to possess knowledge you cannot share? Zara considered the question seriously. A little, but I think I'm willing to make that trade. Knowing the truth, even if I can't prove it to anyone else, feels more valuable than publishing theories based on incomplete evidence. You are willing to sacrifice professional recognition for personal truth. When you put it that way, it sounds noble. Really, I just want to keep talking to you, and if that means keeping secrets, I'll keep secrets. Damon's expression grew intense. You would do that? Restructure your life, your goals, to accommodate this thing between us? Yes, Zara said simply. Because this thing between us, whatever it is, feels more important than anything else in my life right now. Is that crazy? If it is, then we are both mad. He pulled her closer, tucking her against his side. I have been thinking about you constantly. During my court sessions, while handling disputes between my subjects, even when feeding. You have consumed my thoughts entirely. Feeding, Zara said, latching onto the word. I've been wondering about that. How does it work in the modern world? You mentioned blood tithes? We have arrangements with humans who are aware of our existence. They donate blood willingly in exchange for various benefits, protection, money, sometimes simply the thrill of it. We have medical facilities in our courts where the process is sterile and safe. It is all very civilized. Does it have to be from a living person? Could you use blood bags from a hospital? We can survive on preserved blood, but it is not as nourishing as fresh blood taken directly from a human. The connection, the life force in it, that is what truly sustains us. His eyes met hers. Why do you ask? Just curious. Trying to understand how it all works. You are wondering what it would be like, Daemon said perceptively. To be bitten. To offer your blood to me. Zara felt her cheeks heat. Maybe. It would be intensely pleasurable for you, he said quietly. When a vampire bites, we release a substance that enhances sensation, that turns what should be pain into ecstasy. It is a survival mechanism. Willing victims are easier to obtain than resistant ones. But with someone I care for, someone I am attracted to, it would be even more intense. I would want to make it last, to draw out every moment of pleasure for both of us. His words sent heat rushing through her, and from the way his eyes darkened, he could sense her reaction. You are tempting me, she said breathlessly. No more than you are tempting me. Your pulse is racing. I can hear it, smell the blood rushing beneath your skin. You are thinking about it, imagining it, wanting it. I said I wasn't ready for the bond. The bond requires an exchange of blood. I drink from you and you from me. Simply biting you would not create it, though it would mark you temporarily. Other vampires would recognize that you had been fed upon recently and leave you alone out of respect for the one who claimed first taste. His hand came up to her throat, fingers tracing the line of her jugular with devastating gentleness. I want to taste you, Zara. I want to know if your blood is as sweet as everything else about you, but only if you truly want it, only if you are certain. She should say no. This was moving too fast, going too far. They'd known each other for barely 2 days, but her entire body was screaming yes, craving the intimacy he was offering in a way she'd never craved anything. I want it, she whispered. I want you to bite me. Damon's control visibly cracked. He moved with inhuman speed, pressing her back against the bed, his body covering hers. You are certain? Once I taste you, I will never be able to forget it. You will be imprinted on me forever. I'm certain. He lowered his head to her throat, and she felt the press of his lips against her pulse point, gentle at first, almost reverent. His tongue traced the line of her vein, and she shivered. Then she felt the sharp points of his fangs, a moment of pressure, and then pleasure exploded through her nervous system like nothing she'd ever experienced. It wasn't just physical, though her body responded with immediate, overwhelming intensity. It was emotional, spiritual, a connection that reached into the deepest parts of her and pulled. She gasped and arched against him, and felt him make a sound of pure satisfaction as he drank. He was careful, controlled, taking only small pulls that sent waves of sensation through her with each swallow. His hand cradled the back of her head, holding her steady, while his other arm wrapped around her waist. She felt cherished and claimed in equal measure, and the combination was intoxicating. When he finally pulled back, his lips stained red with her blood, his eyes completely crimson and burning with intensity, he looked more beautiful and dangerous than anything she'd ever seen. Magnificent, he breathed. You taste like fire and honey and everything I did not know I was missing. Zara felt lightheaded, floating, her body still singing with residual pleasure. That was overwhelming, intense, perfect. He licked the remaining blood from his lips, and the gesture sent another spike of heat through her. All of that. She touched her neck and felt the small wounds already healing. Will there be a mark? 2 small punctures that will fade within a day or 2 for a human's eyes. But to vampire senses, you will carry my scent for the next week. Any of my kind who encounters you will know that you are under my protection. Your protection, your claim. You keep using those words, because that is what you are now, mine. He said it with absolute certainty. No room for argument. And I am yours. This goes both ways, Zara. You have claimed me as surely as I have claimed you. She should have protested the possessiveness, the assumption of ownership, but it didn't feel wrong. It felt right in a way that defied logic or reason. I've never been anyone's before, and I have not belonged to anyone in over 1,000 years. We are both entering new territory. He rolled to the side, pulling her with him so they lay face to face. How do you feel? Lightheaded? Weak? A little dizzy, but mostly just happy. Is that weird? Not at all. The endorphins released during feeding create a sense of euphoria in the donor. Combined with your genuine attraction to me, it is no wonder you feel good. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. You should eat something. Restore your strength. I took only a small amount, but you are human and need to replenish yourself. Are you going to take care of me now? Zara asked, amused despite her lingering haze of pleasure. Always. That is what it means to be mine. I protect what belongs to me. I care for what I have claimed. You will never want for anything, Zara. I will see to that. She wanted to protest that she could take care of herself, but the fierce devotion in his eyes stopped her. This was important to him, she realized. This protective instinct, this need to provide and care for her. It was part of what he was, both as a vampire and as someone who had lived when men measured their worth by their ability to protect those under their care. Okay, she said softly. Take care of me. The smile he gave her was tender enough to make her chest ache. He rose from the bed and disappeared into her small kitchen, and she heard him moving around, opening cabinets and the refrigerator. When he returned, he carried a plate of food, bread, cheese, some fruit, and a large glass of orange juice. Eat, he commanded gently, settling beside her and watching as she obeyed. The food helped ground her, bringing her fully back into her body. As the lightheadedness faded, she became aware of other things, the way Daemon was watching her with possessive satisfaction, the tenderness in his touches as he brushed crumbs from her lips, the sense of rightness that permeated everything. I have court matters I must attend to tomorrow night, Daemon said after she'd finished eating, but I want to see you the night after. There is someone I want you to meet. Someone in your court? My second in command. Lucien has been my most trusted advisor for 3 centuries. If you are to be part of my life, he should meet you, assess you. Assess me? Zara raised an eyebrow. Like a job interview. More like ensuring that you are who I believe you to be, that you are not a threat to me or the court. His expression was apologetic. I trust you, Zara, but Lucien's job is to be suspicious on my behalf. It is how he has kept me alive this long. I suppose that makes sense. A king needs people who watch for dangers he might miss. She paused. Will he approve of me? He will have no choice. You are mine and my decision is final. But his opinion matters to me, and I want him to see what I see in you, the strength, the intelligence, the fire. Daemon's hand cupped her face. I want him to understand why I am willing to risk everything for you. Everything? That seems dramatic, is it? I am a king, Zara. My position requires that I think first of my court, my people. Every decision I make is weighed against how it will affect them. But with you, I find myself willing to be selfish, to put my own desires ahead of political considerations. That is dangerous for someone in my position. The weight of what he was saying settled over her. I don't want to be a liability to you. You are not. But you are a change, a disruption to the careful balance I have maintained for centuries. And change, however positive, always carries risk. He kissed her softly. I am willing to take that risk. I simply want Lucien to understand why. Then I'll meet him. I'll show him that I'm worth it. You already are, Daemon said with absolute conviction. But I appreciate your willingness to try. They spent the rest of the night talking, though Zara grew increasingly tired as the hours wore on. Eventually, Daemon insisted she sleep, and she was too exhausted to argue. She drifted off with her head on his shoulder, feeling safer and more content than she could remember feeling in years. When she woke the next morning, he was gone, but there was a note on her pillow written in elegant script. You are beautiful when you sleep. I will see you tomorrow night. Until then, dream of me. Zara pressed the note to her chest and smiled like an idiot. The next day passed in a blur of classes and reading, but she couldn't concentrate on any of it. Her mind kept drifting to Daemon, to the feel of his bite, to the promises implicit in everything he said. She touched her neck repeatedly, feeling for the marks she knew were there, even if they were mostly healed. Several people asked if she was feeling all right. Apparently, she looked distracted or flushed or something. She blamed it on not sleeping enough and tried to focus on her work. But the truth was, she'd been fundamentally changed by the past few nights, and she wasn't sure she'd ever be able to fully return to her normal life. When evening finally came, she rushed home and found the mirror already glowing softly. The moment she touched it, Daemon appeared, and the relief on his face was palpable. I have been waiting for you, he said. The day feels interminable when I know I cannot see you. It's only been 1 day, Zara said, but she was already reaching for him as he came through the mirror. 1 day too long. He pulled her into his arms and kissed her deeply, and she melted into him. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. Come, Lucien is waiting to meet you. They went through the mirror together, and this time Daemon led her beyond his private chambers. They walked through corridors carved from stone and lit by those smokeless candles, passing other vampires who stopped and stared at her with open curiosity. All of them had the same pale skin and ethereal beauty, though their hair colors varied black, blonde, red, but all with that supernatural sheen. They bowed to Daemon as he passed, showing him the deference his position commanded. "They are surprised to see a human here," Daemon explained quietly, "especially one walking freely at my side. It has been many years since I brought anyone to court. Do they resent me? Some will. Others will be curious. A few will try to use you to curry favor with me. But none will harm you. The penalty for touching what is mine without permission is death, and they all know it." They entered a chamber that appeared to be some kind of council room. A long table of dark wood dominated the space, surrounded by high-backed chairs. Standing at the far end was a vampire who looked different from the others she'd seen. His hair was silver rather than white, and his eyes were a pale blue instead of red. He was tall and lean, with the look of someone who had been turned young, perhaps in his early 30s. "Lucien," Daemon greeted him. "Thank you for meeting with us, my king." Lucien's voice was cool, cultured, with an accent that sounded vaguely French. His eyes assessed Zara with an intensity that made her want to squirm, but she held her ground. "So this is the human who has captured your attention. This is Zara Sinclair. Zara, this is Lucien Beaumont, second and closest friend." "It's nice to meet you," Zara said, extending her hand. Lucien looked at her hand for a long moment before taking it. His grip was firm but brief. "You are very young, 24, she said. "Which I realize is practically infantile from your perspective." "She is direct," Lucien said to Daemon. "I appreciate that. She is many things. Intelligent, passionate, brave enough to accept what I am without flinching." Daemon's hand came to rest at the small of Zara's back. "She is important to me, Lucien. I need you to accept that." "What I accept is irrelevant. You are king, your choices are your own." But his eyes were calculating as they studied Zara. "What I need to know is whether this choice will endanger you or the court." "I would never endanger Daemon," Zara said firmly. "Or any of you. I understand that your existence needs to remain secret, and I would never reveal it. Forgive me, but the word of a human holds little weight when measured against centuries of experience. Humans are fragile, emotional creatures who act on impulse and betray confidences. How can we trust that you will not do the same?" "Because she is not just any human," Daemon said, his voice taking on an edge. "She is under my protection and my claim. I have tasted her blood and marked her as mine. That bond is not given lightly, Lucien, and you know it." Lucien's expression shifted to something like shock. "You have marked her already? After mere days?" "I have. And I would do it again without hesitation." "This is reckless even for you. You barely know her." "I know enough. I know that she makes me feel things I have not felt in centuries. I know that when I am with her, the weight of immortality feels less crushing. I know that I would destroy anyone who tried to harm her." Daemon's arm tightened around Zara's waist. "That is enough." Lucien was quiet for a long moment, his eyes moving between Daemon and Zara. Finally he sighed. "You are determined in this." "I am, then I will not oppose it, but I will watch, and I will intervene if I believe she poses a threat." "That is all I ask," Daemon said, visibly relaxing. Lucien turned his full attention to Zara. "What do you study, Miss Sinclair?" "Medieval history with a focus on cultural interactions during the Crusades." His eyebrows rose. "Truly? That is a surprisingly relevant field, given your current circumstances." "I thought so too. I've been asking Daemon about his memories of the period. His perspective is invaluable. I imagine it would be. I myself was turned during the late Renaissance, so my knowledge of medieval Europe is second-hand. But I was in Paris during the Terror. If you ever wish to discuss the French Revolution from a first-hand account, I would be willing to share." It was an olive branch, and Zara recognized it as such. "I would love that, thank you." "Do not thank me yet. I am not kind, Miss Sinclair. I am protective of my king and my court. If you prove to be a threat, I will eliminate you regardless of Daemon's attachment to you. Do you understand?" "I do. And I respect it. Daemon deserves people who put his well-being first." Something in Lucien's expression softened fractionally. "You care for him?" "I do. More than makes any rational sense given how short a time I've known him." "Love rarely makes rational sense," Lucien said. "If it did, it would not be love." They talked for another hour, with Lucien asking probing questions about Zara's background, her family, her goals. She answered honestly, sensing that any attempt to dissemble would be caught immediately. By the end he seemed, if not warm, at least accepting of her presence. "You may keep her," Lucien said to Daemon with a faint smile. "She is sharp enough not to be a complete liability." "How generous of you," Daemon said dryly, but there was affection in his tone. After they left the council chamber, Daemon led Zara to a different part of the court, a library that took her breath away. It stretched over multiple floors, with shelves carved directly into the stone walls and filled with books that ranged from ancient manuscripts to modern publications. "This is incredible," Zara breathed, turning in a slow circle to take it all in. "I thought you might appreciate it. These are the collected knowledge of our kind histories, philosophies, scientific treatises, literature from every era and culture. Much of it predates the printing press. Some of these volumes are the only copies remaining in existence. Can I? She was already reaching for a book, unable to help herself. You can explore to your heart's content. Everything here is available to you. He watched her with obvious pleasure as she began examining the shelves. I am glad Lucien did not frighten you. He's protective, that's a good thing. Zara pulled down a volume and carefully opened it, her eyes widening at the illuminated text within. This is a medieval psalter. Daemon, this belongs in a museum. It belongs here, preserved and cared for. Human museums cannot protect books that are this old for the centuries to come. We can. She couldn't argue with that logic. She spent the next several hours exploring the library, with Daemon acting as her guide. He explained the organization system, pointed out particularly rare volumes, and told her the stories behind various acquisitions. Some he had collected himself over the centuries. Others had been gifts from fellow vampires or stolen from doomed libraries before they could be destroyed. You love this, she said at one point, watching him handle a particularly ancient text with reverent care. The preservation of knowledge, it matters to you. It does. I have seen so much lost over the centuries, entire civilizations erased, languages forgotten, wisdom that could have benefited humanity destroyed by war or ignorance. This library is my way of fighting against that loss. Everything here will survive as long as I do, and I plan to survive for a very long time. Zara felt something shift in her chest, something that felt dangerously close to love. This vampire king who commanded armies and inspired fear was also a scholar, a preserver of history, someone who understood the value of knowledge for its own sake. How could she not fall for him? What are you thinking? Daemon asked, studying her expression. That you keep surprising me. That every time I think I understand who you are, you reveal another layer. She set the book down carefully. That I'm falling for you way too fast and I don't know how to slow down. He was in front of her in an instant, his hands framing her face. Don't slow down, fall with me. I am already lost, Zara. I have been since the moment I first saw you through that mirror. You have consumed me utterly. This is crazy, she whispered, even as she leaned into his touch. The best things often are. He kissed her, and it was different, from before, deeper, more desperate, tinged with something that felt like forever. They stayed in the library until Zara could barely keep her eyes open, and then Daemon carried her back to his chambers. Instead of sending her home, he laid her down in his massive bed, easily 3 times the size of hers, and climbed in beside her. Stay, he said quietly. Sleep here where I can watch over you. I have class in the morning, she protested weakly, and I will wake you with plenty of time to return and prepare. Please. Zara, I want to hold you while you sleep. She was too tired to argue, and truthfully she wanted it too. She curled into his side, her head on his chest, and felt his arms wrap around her. His body was cool but not uncomfortably so, and there was something deeply soothing about his presence. I can hear your heartbeat, Daemon murmured into her hair. It is the most beautiful sound in any world. Zara fell asleep smiling, surrounded by his scent and his strength, feeling safer than she'd ever felt in her life. She woke to find him watching her, his red eyes soft in the candlelight. Good morning, he said, though I suppose it is still night in your world. You have 2 hours before you need to leave for your class. 2 hours with you, she said, stretching languidly. 2 hours that I intend to use very wisely. He rolled over her, his body covering hers, and kissed her with thorough intensity. What followed was the most sensual experience of Zara's life, even though they didn't cross the final boundary into sex. Daemon seemed determined to learn every inch of her body, to discover what made her gasp and moan and arch against him. His hands and mouth explored with devastating skill, and when he bit her again, this time at the juncture of her neck and shoulder, the combination of his bite and his touch sent her spiraling into pleasure so intense she cried out his name. Perfect, he murmured against her skin, licking the wound closed. You are absolutely perfect, Zara. She was still trembling with aftershocks when he finally pulled back, looking entirely too pleased with himself. That was just the beginning. When I finally make love to you properly, it will be even better, but I want you to be absolutely certain before we take that step. I want there to be no doubt in your mind that this is what you want. I want it, she said breathlessly. I want you, not yet, soon but not yet. I want to court you properly. Show you every facet of my world, give you time to be certain this is sustainable. His thumb brushed across her swollen lips. I am immortal, Zara. I have infinite patience when it matters. She appreciated his restraint, even though her body was screaming otherwise. They spent the remaining time simply holding each other, talking quietly about nothing and everything. When it was finally time for her to go, she left reluctantly, already counting down the hours until she could return. The pattern continued for the next 2 weeks. Every night, Zara would rush home from her classes and work, and every night Daemon would be waiting for her. Sometimes they stayed in her world, and he would listen to her talk about her day, her research, her frustrations with her advisor. Other times she would cross into his realm, and he would show her more of his court, introduce her to other vampires, share more of his vast knowledge. Lucienne warmed to her gradually, their conversations becoming less interrogations and more genuine exchanges. He shared his memories of the French Revolution, and she was able to provide historical context that even he hadn't been aware of. They formed a tentative friendship based on mutual respect and their shared concern for Daemon's well-being. The other vampires in the court remained wary but accepting. They could see how devoted their king was to this human, and none wanted to risk his wrath by showing her disrespect. Some were genuinely curious about her, asking questions about the modern human world and her perspective on their kind. Zara's life began to feel split between two realities: the mundane daylight world of classes and research, and the thrilling nighttime world of vampires and ancient courts. She was sleeping less but felt more alive than ever. Her academic work actually improved because Daemon could provide first-hand accounts of historical events, filling in gaps that had frustrated scholars for centuries. But there were complications. She had to make excuses to her friends about why she was never available at night anymore. Her advisor commented that she seemed distracted, though her work was good, and there was the constant awareness that she was keeping a monumental secret, that she was living a double life that no one in her human world could ever understand. "Are you happy?" Daemon asked her one night as they lay together in his bed. It had become routine for her to sleep in his chambers, with him waking her in time to return home and prepare for her day. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Happier than I've ever been, but—" He sensed her hesitation. "But I'm also aware that this can't go on forever like this. Eventually, people in my life are going to notice that something has changed. My roommate already thinks I'm seeing someone and is hurt that I won't tell her about it. My friends feel neglected, and I'm lying constantly about where I am and what I'm doing. What do you want to do about it?" "I don't know. I can't tell them the truth. They'd think I was insane, or they'd demand to meet you, which would be impossible. But I also can't keep lying to people I care about." Daemon was quiet for a moment. "There is another option, though it would be a significant change." "What kind of option?" "You could move into my world more permanently. Not fully, I know you value your education and your human life. But you could arrange your schedule to minimize your time in the day world. Take online classes, do your research remotely. Spend the majority of your time here with me." "Live with you?" Zara's heart raced at the thought. "Yes, I would give you your own chambers if you wished for privacy, though I confess I prefer having you in my bed. You would have access to our entire library for your research. I could provide you with any resources you needed, and you would not have to divide yourself between two worlds so drastically." It was tempting, incredibly tempting, but it was also terrifying. That's a huge step. We've only known each other for 2 weeks. "I am aware, and I am not demanding an answer now. But think about it. Consider whether the life you are living now, split and secretive, is truly sustainable. And consider whether you would be happier here with me, living authentically instead of hiding." She thought about it constantly over the next few days. The more she considered it, the more sense it made. Her apartment was just a place to sleep. Her classes could mostly be done online. Her research would actually benefit from access to Daemon's library and knowledge. And the thought of waking up next to him every night, of not having to leave when morning came, was almost unbearably appealing. But it would mean essentially leaving her human life behind. Her friends, her advisor, the coffee shop she liked, the normalcy she'd always known. Could she do that? Could she choose him over everything else? The decision was made for her a week later when she encountered another vampire. She was walking home from the library late at night, foolish. She realized in retrospect, but she'd been lost in thought about a research problem. She took her usual shortcut through a narrow alley, and suddenly there was someone blocking her path. He was beautiful in the way all vampires were, with pale skin and dark hair, but his eyes were wrong, hungry and cruel. "What do we have here?" he said, and his voice made her skin crawl. "A little human out all alone, how careless." Zara's heart hammered, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm under Daemon Volkarius's protection. You need to let me pass." The vampire's eyes widened, and then he leaned in, inhaling deeply. "Oh, you are, aren't you? I can smell his mark on you. The Northern King's little pet." He circled her slowly. "Do you know how much trouble you could cause, sweet thing? There are those who would love to get their hands on something precious to Daemon. He has been too powerful for too long. Some of us think it's time for a change in leadership." "Touch me and he'll destroy you," Zara said, backing away. "Perhaps, but maybe you're worth the risk. Maybe bringing you to those who oppose him would earn me a place in the new order." He lunged faster than her eyes could follow. Zara screamed and tried to run, but he caught her easily, his hand clamping over her mouth. She struggled, terror overwhelming her rational thought, and then the vampire released her with a shocked gasp. She fell to the ground and looked up to see Daemon standing there, his hand wrapped around the other vampire's throat. His eyes were burning with rage, completely crimson, his fangs fully extended. He looked terrifying, every inch the ancient predator. "You dare," Daemon snarled, his voice barely recognizable. "You dare to touch what is mine." "My lord, I didn't. I was only—" The vampire's words cut off as Daemon's grip tightened. "You threatened her. You put your hands on her. You suggested taking her to my enemies." Each word was punctuated by increased pressure. "Give me one reason why I should not end you here and now." "Mercy, please." "You showed her none. Why should I show you any, Daemon?" Zara said shakily, getting to her feet. "Daemon, I'm okay. He didn't hurt me." Daemon's eyes flicked to her, and some of the rage bled out of them when he saw her standing there, shaken but unhurt. "He frightened you. He threatened you. That is enough, I know. But killing him here in public could expose you, could expose all of you." Her voice was steadier now, her rational mind reasserting control over her fear. "Let him go. Exile him or punish him some other way. But don't do something you'll regret because of me." Daemon stared at her for a long moment and then slowly released the other vampire, who crumpled to the ground. "You have 1 hour to leave my territory," Daemon said coldly. "If I ever see you again, if I ever hear that you have spoken my name or hers to anyone, I will hunt you to the ends of the earth and make your death last days. Do you understand?" "Yes, my lord." Thank you. Get out of my sight." The vampire fled, disappearing into the shadows with supernatural speed. Daemon turned to Zara and pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "Are you all right? Did he hurt you? If he harmed you in any way, I will find him and I'm okay," Zara said, wrapping her arms around him. "You got here in time. How did you know?" "I felt your fear through our bond. The moment you were threatened, I knew. I was in a council meeting, and I simply left. Ran through the streets until I found you." He pulled back to look at her, his hands framing her face. "You should not have been out alone. It is not safe for you anymore, Zara. My enemies know about you now. They will see you as a weakness to exploit. I didn't think I was just walking home, I know, and that is my fault. I should have explained the danger more clearly. Should have insisted on guards for you when you are in your world." His thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "You are too precious to risk. I cannot lose you." The raw fear in his voice, the visible trembling in his hands broke through the last of her resistance. She loved him, completely, irrevocably, despite all logic and reason. And he loved her too. She could feel it in the way he held her, see it in his eyes, hear it in every word. "I'll move in with you," she said. "I'll arrange my classes to be online, do my research from your library. I don't want to be apart from you anymore, and I don't want to risk getting caught alone again." "Are you certain?" "I don't want you to make this decision out of fear." "I'm not. I've been thinking about it for days, and this just solidified it. I want to be with you, Daemon. Fully, completely. I want to wake up in your world instead of having to leave it every morning. I want to learn everything you can teach me and build a life that includes both my work and you. If that means leaving most of my human life behind, then that's what I'll do." His kiss was fierce and claiming, full of relief and love and possessive need. When they finally broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. "You have made me happier than I have been in 1,000 years. "Same here, minus the 1,000 years part." He laughed, the sound breaking the tension, and lifted her into his arms. "Come, let me take you home. Our home." They returned to her apartment only long enough to pack her essential belongings. Daemon arranged for the rest to be moved later, and for her landlord to be paid through the end of her lease. Within hours, Zara had essentially left her human life behind, stepping through the mirror into a world of vampires and ancient magic. Daemon gave her chambers adjoining his own, a sitting room and bedroom beautifully appointed with furniture that looked centuries old. "These are yours," he said. "Your private space, whenever you need it. Though I hope you will continue to share my bed." "I will," she promised. "I like sleeping with you. Even if you don't actually sleep, I rest. It is close enough." He showed her the rest of her new domain, a private bathroom with a massive tub, a balcony that overlooked an underground garden lit by magical lights, bookshelves waiting to be filled with her research. "If there is anything else you need, anything at all, you have only to ask. This is more than enough." "It's beautiful, Daemon." Over the next few weeks, Zara settled into her new life. She arranged with her university to complete her coursework online, citing family circumstances that required her to relocate. Her advisor was disappointed but understanding, especially when she began producing thesis work of unprecedented quality. Turns out having access to first-hand historical accounts made for excellent scholarship. She spent her days in Daemon's library, researching and writing, occasionally emerging to explore more of the court. The vampires who lived there gradually accepted her presence, some even seeking her out to share their own stories and perspectives. She became known as the King's Scholar, the human who understood their history better than most of them did. Her nights were spent with Daemon, talking, learning, falling deeper in love with him. He taught her about vampire politics and culture. She taught him about modern technology and social media, things he'd avoided learning because they felt too ephemeral. They argued about history and philosophy and art, debates that could last hours and left them both exhilarated, and they touched, constantly. Daemon seemed unable to be near her without making physical contact, a hand at her back, fingers in her hair, pulling her into his lap whenever they sat together. He bit her regularly, always with her permission, the bond between them growing stronger with each exchange of blood and pleasure, but they still hadn't made love, and Zara was starting to get frustrated with his restraint. "Why are you waiting?" she asked one night as they lay in his bed, her body still thrumming with pleasure from his bite and his skilled hands. "I've moved in with you. I've committed to this life. What are you waiting for?" Daemon was quiet for a long moment. "I want you to be fully bonded to me before we take that final step, the blood bond, drinking from each other. Yes, I want us to be connected in every way possible. I want to feel your emotions as you feel mine, to know that we are bound together for as long as you live." His eyes met hers. "I want you to be mine completely, Zara, and I want to be yours. Then let's do it." "I'm ready. There are things you should know first. The bond is permanent for as long as you live. You will crave my presence, feel pain when we are separated for too long. Your emotions will be more intense, your connection to me undeniable." And he hesitated. "And what?" "And I will be possessive beyond reason. I am already protective of you, already territorial. The bond will amplify those instincts. I will struggle with letting you out of my sight, with allowing others near you. I will want to keep you here, safe, surrounded by my scent and my presence. It will take significant effort for me to give you the freedom you need. I can handle possessive. I like that you want me so much. This would be beyond normal jealousy or desire. This would be primal, instinctive. I need you to understand what you are agreeing to." Zara thought about it seriously. Could she live with that level of intensity? That depth of connection? Would it feel claustrophobic or comforting? But when she looked at Daemon, at the love and concern in his eyes, she knew her answer. "I want it anyway. I want to be bound to you. I want to feel what you feel and know that we belong to each other. Yes, it's intense. Yes, it's probably not healthy by normal human standards. But this entire situation stopped being normal the moment I met a vampire king through a magic mirror. I want everything with you, Daemon, all of it. The beautiful parts and the complicated parts and the scary parts." His control finally snapped. He kissed her with desperate hunger, and she felt his fangs graze her lips. "You are certain?" he asked against her mouth. "Completely certain. Bond with me. Make me yours in every way." What happened next was the most intense experience of Zara's life. Daemon bit her neck, but this time the sensation was different, deeper, more profound. She felt his consciousness brush against hers, felt the edges of his emotions bleeding into her awareness. Then he shifted, biting his own wrist and holding it to her lips. "Drink," he commanded softly. Zara hesitated for only a moment before accepting. His blood tasted like darkness and power and winter nights, and the moment it touched her tongue, the world exploded. She felt everything: his love for her, so vast and deep it was almost frightening, his desire, his possessive need, his fierce protectiveness, and underneath it all, his loneliness, the aching isolation of living for over a millennium without finding anyone who truly understood him. She drank deeply, and with each swallow the connection strengthened. She could feel him in her mind, her heart, her soul. And she knew he was feeling her too, her love, her trust, her absolute certainty that this was right. When she finally pulled back, they were both trembling. The bond was complete, a living thing between them, and Zara could feel Daemon's presence in her mind like a warm ember, constant and comforting. "I can feel you," she whispered in awe. "And you are inside me now, Zara, part of me. For as long as you live, we will be connected like this." His hands were shaking as he held her face. "I love you. I have loved you since the moment I saw you, and I will love you until the stars burn out." "I love you too," she said, and felt his joy at the words echo through their bond. "Now make love to me, please, Daemon. I need you." He didn't make her ask twice. Their lovemaking was intense and overwhelming, amplified by the bond between them. She could feel his pleasure mixed with her own, could sense his emotions as he moved inside her. It was perfect and terrifying and beautiful, and when they finally fell apart together, she felt complete in a way she never had before. They spent hours afterwards simply holding each other, learning to navigate the bond, marveling at the depth of connection they now shared. Zara could feel Daemon's contentment, his satisfaction, his overwhelming love, and she knew he could feel the same from her. "I have never felt anything like this," Daemon murmured, his fingers tracing patterns on her skin. "In over 1,000 years, I have never been this close to another being. You have given me something I did not know I was missing." "You've given me everything," Zara said softly. "A life I never imagined, knowledge beyond my wildest dreams, and love that feels like it could consume me whole. I will spend every remaining day of your life ensuring you never regret this choice." The mention of her mortality, the vast difference in their lifespans, was something they'd carefully avoided discussing until now, but it hung between them, unavoidable. "How long do I have?" Zara asked quietly. "If I stay human, perhaps 50 or 60 more years if you are fortunate." A blink of an eye for me. The pain in his voice was palpable through their bond. And if I became like you? Daemon went very still. You are considering turning? I'm considering the fact that I don't want this to end. That I don't want to spend 50 years with you and then leave you alone for the rest of eternity. That doesn't seem fair to either of us. Becoming vampire is not a simple decision, Zara. You would lose your humanity, your ability to walk in daylight. You would have to feed on blood to survive. You would watch everyone you know from your human life age and die while you remained unchanged. It is a hard existence, an isolated one. But I would have you an eternity to learn and explore and love. That seems worth the price. You say that now, but you have not lived with the reality of it. The endless years, the unchanging nature of existence, the weight of watching civilizations rise and fall knowing you can never truly be part of them. His hand tightened on her. I would not wish this existence on you without you being absolutely certain. Then let me be certain. Let me live this life for a while, experience it fully, and when I'm ready, if I'm ready, we can discuss it again. She tilted her face up to kiss him. I'm not saying I want it tomorrow, but I am saying I don't want to lose you. Keep that in mind. I will think of little else, Daemon said quietly. Their life together fell into a comfortable rhythm after that. Zara continued her research, producing work that was secretly informed by actual vampire accounts of history. She maintained minimal contact with her human friends through social media and occasional messages, enough to assure them she was alive and well, but not enough to require explanations she couldn't give. She met vampires from other courts when they came to visit Daemon on diplomatic business. Svetlana from the southern court was sharp and cunning, with red hair and eyes that seemed to see through every facade. The twins from the eastern court, Ming and Wei, were playful and mischievous, delighting in testing Zara's knowledge of Asian history. Ezekiel from the western court was quiet and intense, with the bearing of the priest he'd once been. All of them accepted her because Daemon made it clear that disrespecting her was the same as disrespecting him. And all of them were curious about the human who had captured the northern king's heart so completely. You have changed him, Svetlana observed one night when the rulers had gathered for a summit. She and Zara were watching Daemon argue with Ezekiel about territorial boundaries, the two men gesturing animatedly. I have known Daemon for 800 years, and I have never seen him so alive, so present. He was always competent, always powerful, but there was a distance to him, as if he was merely going through the motions of ruling rather than truly engaging with it. You brought him back. I think he brought himself back, Zara said. I just gave him a reason to want to. That is what love does. It gives us reasons. Svetlana's expression turned wistful. Hold on to it, Zara. Connection like that is rare even among our kind, perhaps especially among our kind. As months passed, Zara found herself genuinely happy in her new life. She missed sunlight sometimes, missed the freedom of moving through the world without concern for what might notice her. But the trade-offs were worth it. She had love, purpose, knowledge, and a partner who cherished her completely. The bond between her and Daemon deepened with time. They learned to communicate through it, sending emotions and sometimes even fragments of thought. She could sense when he was stressed from court matters and would appear with tea and sympathy. He could feel when her research was frustrating her and would offer insights or simply hold her until the frustration faded. They made love frequently, learning each other's bodies and preferences with the thoroughness of someone who expected to have eternity to explore. Daemon was an attentive lover, creative and generous, always ensuring her pleasure before seeking his own. And the bond made it even more intense, feeling his desire mixing with hers, his satisfaction when he brought her to climax, his love surrounding her like a warm blanket. It was nearly a year after they'd first met when Zara made her decision. She was in the library, reading a first-hand account of the fall of Rome that Daemon had written centuries ago when it hit her. This was her life now. This was where she belonged. Not in the human world with its brief connections and limited knowledge, but here, surrounded by immortals and ancient wisdom. With Daemon, and she wanted to stay. Not for 50 years. Forever. She found him in his private chambers, reviewing documents that Lucien had brought for his signature. He looked up as she entered, and his face immediately softened. Zara, I thought you were working. I was. But I need to talk to you about something important. He set the papers aside immediately, giving her his full attention. What is it? I want you to turn me. I want to become vampire. Daemon went completely still. Through their bond, she felt his surge of hope immediately followed by concern. Are you certain? We discussed this. You know the costs. I know, and I'm certain. I've been thinking about it for months, weighing the options, considering what I'd be giving up and what I'd be gaining. And the answer is clear. I want eternity with you, Daemon. I want to stop counting down the years we have left and instead look forward to all the time ahead. I want to be your equal in truth, not just a human under your protection. I want forever. He crossed to her in 3 strides, pulling her into his arms. You are already my equal. You have always been my equal. I know you see me that way, but I want the world to see me that way too. I want other vampires to know that I am not just the king's pet, but his partner, his mate, his queen. His eyes blazed at that. My queen, if you'll have me, if I'll have you? He laughed, the sound filled with joy and disbelief. Zara, I would give you anything, everything. But this is not a decision to make lightly. Once it is done, it cannot be undone. You will die as a human and rise as something else. There will be pain and fear, and you will emerge changed. I know, but I also know that you'll be there with me through all of it, and that on the other side we'll have forever. She cupped his face in her hands. I'm ready, Daemon. Turn me. He searched her eyes, clearly looking for any hint of doubt, but she had none. This was the right choice, the only choice that made sense for the life she wanted to live. When? He finally asked. Now, tonight. Before I lose my nerve. You will not lose your nerve. You are the bravest person I have ever known. But he was already moving, calling for Lucien, preparing for what was to come. The turning process was explained to her in clinical detail by Lucien, who had overseen many turnings in his centuries of existence. Daemon would drain her to the point of death, then feed her his blood. Her human body would die, and over the course of 3 nights, she would transform into vampire. It would be painful, especially during the actual death, but Daemon would be with her throughout. Are you certain? Lucien asked her one last time. Once this is done, there is no reversal. You will be vampire with all that entails. I'm certain, Zara said firmly. They prepared a chamber for the turning far from the main areas of the court. Daemon laid her down on soft blankets, his expression torn between love and fear. I have never turned anyone, he admitted. I have never cared enough about someone to want to make them immortal. You will be my first and my only, then we'll figure it out together. She pulled him down for a kiss. I love you. That won't change no matter what form I'm in. I love you beyond measure, beyond reason, beyond life itself. He positioned himself above her and she saw his fangs extend fully. This will hurt. I am sorry. I know, it's okay, I trust you. He bit her neck, and the initial sensation was pleasure as always. But as he continued to drink, pulling harder, taking more, the pleasure faded into weakness. She felt her heartbeat slowing, her breathing becoming shallow. The world started to gray at the edges. Just when she thought she might panic, might tell him to stop, she felt his wrist at her lips. Blood welled from a cut he'd made, and instinctively she drank. His blood was thicker than when she'd tasted it before, richer, and it burned going down. But she kept drinking, kept swallowing, even as her vision darkened completely. The last thing she heard was Daemon's voice. Sleep now, my love. When you wake, we will have forever. Then there was nothing. Zara woke screaming. Her body was on fire, every nerve ending ablaze with pain. She was aware of Daemon holding her, murmuring reassurances, but she couldn't focus on his words. The pain was all-consuming, a transformation happening at the cellular level that felt like being unmade and remade simultaneously. It went on for what felt like days but was probably hours. Slowly, gradually, the pain began to recede, and in its wake came something else, heightened awareness. She could hear heartbeats from chambers away, could smell blood and stone and age. Her vision was sharper, colors more vivid. And the hunger I know, Daemon said, recognizing her need through their bond. I have blood ready for you. But first open your eyes, look at me. She did, and gasped. The world looked different. She could see in the darkness as clearly as if it were day. And Daemon, he was even more beautiful than before, every detail of him crisp and perfect. There you are, he said softly, his eyes bright with tears. My queen, my love, my eternal companion. I can feel everything, Zara breathed. Hear everything, it's so much. It will be overwhelming at first, but you will learn to control it, to filter it. I will teach you. He helped her sit up. How do you feel? Different, stronger, and so hungry. He handed her a goblet filled with blood, and she drank greedily. It was the most delicious thing she'd ever tasted, warm and rich and satisfying on a level she'd never experienced. When the goblet was empty, she felt clear-headed for the first time since waking. Better? Daemon asked. Much better. She looked down at her hands, seeing pale skin where there had been warmth before. I'm really vampire now. You are one of us. Immortal, powerful, and mine for eternity. He kissed her gently. Welcome to forever, Zara. The next few weeks were a learning curve as Zara adjusted to her new existence. Daemon taught her to hunt properly, how to take blood from willing donors without harming them. Lucien taught her to control her enhanced senses, to filter out the overwhelming input so she could function normally. And she discovered new abilities, strength far beyond human, speed that let her cross rooms in a blink, healing that closed wounds in minutes. The court accepted her transformation with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Some were pleased to see their king so happy. Others were wary of a vampire so newly made being elevated to such a position of power. But none could deny the bond between Zara and Daemon, which was visible to any who looked at them. 3 months after her turning, Daemon made it official. He gathered the entire court and formally declared Zara his queen, his eternal mate, his partner in ruling the northern vampires. He presented her with a crown of black metal and dark gems, placing it on her white-haired head with reverent hands. "You have been my equal from the moment we met," he said before the assembled vampires. "Now all will recognize it. Zara Sinclair, now and forever Zara Volkarius, Queen of the Northern Court." The court erupted in applause, some genuine, some politic, but Zara barely heard it. She was focused on Daemon, on the love and pride shining in his eyes, on the bond between them that sang with joy. That night they made love as equals in truth, both vampire, both immortal, both utterly devoted to each other. And through their bond, Zara felt something settle into place, a sense of rightness, of completion, of finding where she truly belonged. "I love you," she whispered against his lips, "for eternity." "And I love you," Daemon replied, "for all the eternities to come." Years passed in their underground court. Zara continued her research, now with the perspective of an immortal who would have centuries to complete her work. She became known not just as the Northern Queen but as a scholar in her own right, consulted by vampires from all courts on matters of history and human culture. She and Daemon ruled together, making decisions jointly, facing challenges as partners. They dealt with political intrigue from other courts, with the occasional rogue vampire who threatened their carefully maintained secrecy, with the constant evolution of the human world above them. And through it all their bond remained strong, their love growing deeper with each passing year. Sometimes Zara thought about her human life, about the friends she'd left behind and the normalcy she'd abandoned. But those moments were fleeting, because this life, this existence with Daemon, was everything she'd never known she wanted. It was strange and dangerous and beautiful and perfect. She had eternity with the vampire king who'd watched her through a mirror and fallen in love with what he saw. She had knowledge and power and purpose. And most importantly, she had love that would outlast empires, that would endure through whatever centuries and millennia lay ahead. On their 10-year anniversary, Daemon took her back to her old apartment, or rather, to where it had been. The building had been torn down, replaced by something modern and soulless. But the mirror was still there, carefully preserved in a storage facility that Daemon had maintained. "The mirror that brought us together," he said, running his fingers along the ornate frame. "I thought about having it destroyed, ensuring that no other could use it to bridge worlds, but I could not bring myself to do it. It is too precious, too significant." "It gave me you," Zara said, taking his hand. "It gave us each other. I'd say that makes it the most valuable object in existence." They hung the mirror in their private chambers, a reminder of how their story began. And sometimes, when Zara looked into it, she could almost see the reflection of the woman she'd been, human, mortal, ignorant of the world that existed just beyond the veil. That woman felt like a stranger now, someone from another life entirely, but she was also grateful to that woman for being curious enough to buy the mirror, for being brave enough to speak to the vampire king on the other side, for being willing to take a leap into the unknown, because that leap had led her here to forever, to love, to a life richer and more meaningful than anything she could have imagined. Daemon wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder as they both looked into the mirror. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That I would do it all again. Every moment, every choice, every risk, it all led me to you. And I would watch you through that mirror 1,000 times over if it meant we would end here together, with eternity stretching out before us." He turned her in his arms, his red eyes blazing with the love that had never dimmed. "You are my everything, Zara, my queen, my mate, my reason for existing through all the long years. I love you beyond the capacity of language to express." "I love you too," she said, and through their bond, she showed him the depth and breadth of that love, endless, eternal, absolute. "Forever and always, Daemon, you and me." "Forever and always," he echoed, and kissed her with the passion of someone who had thousands of years to perfect the art and all of eternity to continue practicing. Their story had begun with a mirror and a moment of courage, and it would continue through centuries yet unwritten, through challenges they couldn't yet imagine, through an eternity of nights together. The vampire king and his human-turned queen, bound by blood and love and a magic older than time itself, and they lived happily, endlessly, eternally after.